Welcome to Business Reporter's Best of British Business campaign. I'm Rachel Hicks. Every day, news outlets are reporting on climate crisis, and without dedication and action, we'll neither meet the 2050 net zero emission target nor save the planet for our children. The net zero commitment is our most efficient tool to save the planet. The UK is a leader in phasing in green energy sources. Governments and markets around the world must follow its lead, especially in transforming the legacy transportation system into a green one. Beyond governments, investors are also putting pressure on the private sector to find sustainable solutions. Today, we've invited experts from global strategic engineering and environmental consultancy Ricardo to explain how we can manage the change to a sustainable transportation system for land, air and sea. I'm talking to Sujith Kollamthodi about how transportation on sea can achieve net zero goals. Good morning, Sujith.
Good morning, Rachel.
Let's first of all find out a bit about Ricardo. What does it do?
So Ricardo is a global consultancy specialising in policy, strategy, technology innovation and technology implementation with a clear focus on climate change and addressing climate risk.
So how can Ricardo's expertise provide solutions for the challenges faced by the transportation sector at the moment?
So if we want to address the challenges facing the transport sector, there are three things that we need to do, and we help our clients with all of these things. First, it's about gathering evidence on the scale, scope and nature of the problems facing the transport sector. Second, it's about developing policies and strategies to address those problems. And finally, it's about helping implement the real technological solutions that will solve those problems. So if we go back to bring this to life, on the evidence side of things, we help corporate clients understand the emissions from their fleets of vehicles. At the city level, we might help a city understand the emissions from its transport sector. And we do the same thing at the national level. We might help a country develop a national account of its emissions from the transport sector. Then if we talk about policies and strategies to address these problems, we help develop vehicle emissions legislation, so CO2 standards for new vehicles as an example, or new policies and incentives that can accelerate alternative fuels like hydrogen, electric vehicles or biofuels. Finally, on the technology implementation side of things, all of the real solutions are new technologies that are needed in vehicles on the ground, in the air and on the sea. We help develop those technologies. So, for example, introducing hydrogen technology into the shipping sector or electric vehicles.
You've given us examples in all of those areas. Can I just get you to pick one out and just talk to me just in a little bit more detail about them?
Sure, yeah. If we want to focus on the shipping sector, shipping faces many challenges. It's a very energy-intensive sector. Emissions from the maritime shipping sector account for around 11% of global transport greenhouse gas emissions, and those emissions are growing. They're projected to more than double between now and 2050, and we don't have the solutions on the ground to address that problem. We need different types of technologies, and it's not straightforward to introduce those technologies into shipping. So the technologies I'm talking about include hydrogen and other hydrogen-derived fuels like ammonia. So the things that Ricardo would get involved in are helping shipping sector organisations to develop a plan for introducing these technologies, carry out research and development to integrate these technologies into ships, test that out, and make sure that it works in real life situations.
So how is Ricardo's expertise in hydrogen benefiting and supporting the marine sector?
So one of the options for decarbonising shipping is to start applying new technologies like hydrogen fuel cells or hydrogen-derived fuels like green ammonia into the shipping sector. It's one of the most these are some of the most promising options for the shipping sector. We have the expertise in being able to engineer those sorts of solutions for the shipping sector, whether it be smaller vessels or indeed the larger ocean-going ships.
And if you had to look at both those fuels, which do you think is going to be the most commercially applicable?
I think both are going to be needed, and it depends on the type of ship that we're talking about. So For smaller ships, we might see hydrogen fuel cell technology coming to the fore in the next few years. For the larger ships, which today rely on very large diesel engines, it's going to be harder to use new technologies like fuel cells, but maybe we can shift to using ammonia in engines, but we need to adapt those engines, and that's where Ricardo can really help.
So if we look at decarbonisation, it's something that's featured at COP26, and we've heard governments' positions on it. Where does that leave industry? What does it now need to consider? So
industry now really needs to ramp up the rate at which new technologies for decarbonisation are both developed and deployed. We're running out of time now to take action and address this major global challenge. Now is the time to act.
So how much faster do they have to act? You talked about running out of time.
I think really now it's about implementing these solutions within the next 10 years.
Sujis, thank you very much for coming to talk to us today.
Thanks, Rachel.